Breaking Bad is presented as Walter White's story. It isn't. Walter's story is the one the show performs. The transformation, the ambition, the legend of Heisenberg. But underneath that story, quietly, consistently across 5 seasons, is a different argument. About which character was actually paying attention. About which one could still accurately read what was happening around him. About which one's emotional responses were data rather than dysfunction.
In chemistry, okay, this is art.
Oh.
Cooking is art, and the shit I cook is the bomb, so don't be telling me.
Jesse Pinkman's guilt got dismissed by every character in the show. Walter managed it. Gus worked around it. The audience sometimes found it exhausting. The show itself presented it as Jesse's liability. The reason he couldn't be fully trusted, fully operational, fully useful. But Breaking Bad's actual argument, the one that only becomes visible at the end, is that the guilt was the most accurate instrument in the story. The character who felt everything was the only one who saw everything clearly. And seeing clearly, it turns out, is the thing you need to survive. This video is about 3 things.
Some straight like you giant stick up his ass, all of a sudden at age, 60, he's just gonna break bad?
Why Jesse's guilt was functional, not broken. How Walter used the need underneath that guilt as the primary lever of control. And why feeling everything, which looked like weakness for 5 seasons, was the actual survival mechanism. Section 1. Guilt as compass. There's a specific moment where Jesse figures something out about Walter, about what Walt did, and the show barely acknowledges it. By the end of this video, you'll understand why that moment is the most important one Jesse has. Here's the thing about Jesse's emotional volatility that every analysis gets wrong. They read it as instability, as the reason Walter has to manage him, the reason Gus sees him as a liability, the reason the whole operation would run cleaner without him in it.
Like I came to you begging to cook meth. Oh, hey, nerdiest old dude I know, you wanna come cook Crystal? Please. I'd ask my diaper-wearing granny, but her wheelchair wouldn't fit in the RV.
What it actually is the most accurate read of the situation available at any given moment. After Jesse kills Gale, he collapses. He can't function normally. He disappears into using. He can't carry what happened. Walter adjusts almost immediately. The show asks you to read Walter as the functional one. But think about what actually happened. A man who had done nothing wrong was killed to protect Walter White's position. That's what happened. Jesse's response, the inability to continue as normal, is the accurate response to that event.
Heil Hitler, bitch! And let me tell you something else. We flipped a coin, okay? You and me.
Walter's response, the rapid recalibration, is the one that should trouble you. This is guilt as compass. Guilt is a navigational instrument. It tells you when you've crossed a line your values said you wouldn't cross. And when that guilt fires accurately, when the thing you did was actually wrong, the guilt is data. It's telling you something real. The show stacks this evidence consistently. A child gets killed by dealers connected to the operation. Jesse can't continue. Walt talks him back into it.
Huh? We're in a wire? Huh? You're setting me up?
Homo. A wire? You want a wire? I got a wire. Speak into the mic, bitch.
The audience reads Walt's persuasion as rationalism and Jesse's resistance as instability. But Jesse's resistance was correct. The operation was producing children's deaths. His instrument was working. Andrea's son gets poisoned. Jesse knows something is wrong before he knows what. Walter's moral navigation had been recalibrated so many times by Season 3 that it no longer registered what it was originally designed to register. He could walk past anything. Jesse couldn't. That's not malfunction. That's the instrument still working.
I got 2 tubes that turned into raspberry slush and flushed down my toilet. I can't even take a proper dump in there. I mean, the whole damn house has got to be haunted by now.
In real life, the person in any organization who keeps raising the thing everyone else has decided to stop raising, who can't move on from something the group has processed and filed, is almost always reading something real that the group has chosen not to read. The discomfort of their persistence is not evidence that they're wrong. It's often evidence that they're the only one still paying attention. His guilt was the most accurate instrument in the show. Everyone around him called it a problem. The guilt was the compass. Section 2. The Approval Trap. Watch what Walter does when Jesse does something well. Not the praise itself, the specific quality of the praise. How Walter delivers it, the moment he chooses to deliver it, and what he does with Jesse's response afterward. Jesse needed Walter to think well of him from the first episode.
Pseudo.
So you do have a plan? Yeah, Mr. White. Yes, science.
This isn't a character flaw in the conventional sense. It's the product of a specific history. Parents who couldn't see him, teachers who gave up on him, a world that consistently assessed him as someone who would amount to nothing. Walter was the first authority figure who not only saw Jesse's capability, but built an entire operation around it. That's not a small thing. And Walter understood, probably consciously by Season 2, definitely consciously by Season 3, exactly what he was holding. The mechanism is simple. Praise given selectively and conditionally is more powerful than praise given freely. Walter's approval was never guaranteed, never unconditional, never without the implicit awareness that it could be withdrawn. So Jesse operated in a constant state of trying to maintain something Walt kept just out of full reach. Do this for me. Prove it. Come back. Handle this. And Jesse, who needed the approval and had been trained to believe he had to earn it, kept coming back.
So when the going gets tough, you don't want a criminal lawyer, right? You want a criminal lawyer.
The cruelest version of this is what happens after Jane dies. Walter watches Jane die. Jesse doesn't know. Jesse carries the grief of her death and gets destroyed by it, and Walter becomes the person he turns to for comfort, for permission to come back, for someone to tell him he can survive it. The person who could have saved Jane and didn't becomes the person Jesse needs to hold him together afterward. Walter never corrects this. He receives Jesse's need and uses it to bring him back into the operation, the approval trap running at its most efficient. And this exists outside the show too. Think about the authority figure in your own life whose approval you consistently tried to earn. A boss, a mentor, a parent, a partner. Ask whether the approval was given freely or calibrated, whether you had to do specific things to maintain it, whether the relationship functioned because of what you did in response to the intermittent positive signal. That's the trap. It doesn't even require malice. It just requires that someone notices where the lever is and keeps using it. The counter is simple, but difficult. Stop making external approval the primary metric. Develop other sources of recognition. Decide what you think of your own work, your own decisions, your own performance. The trap only works while one person's approval controls the whole system. Walt found the lever early. He used it for 5 seasons. Jesse never quite stopped responding to it. The praise was never free. Section 3. Survival through feeling. Now the moment Jesse figures out what Walter did. Season 4. Jesse is increasingly operating on his own. Gus is using him effectively. Walt is losing control over him. So Walter poisons Brock Cantillo, Andrea's son, with a non-lethal dose using Lily of the Valley. The goal is simple. Manipulate Jesse into believing Gus is responsible. And it works. Jesse comes back. The alliance holds. Then later, Jesse figures it out. Lily of the Valley, the plant, the connection. The realization lands quietly. Not dramatically, quietly. And that quiet realization is one of the most important moments in the entire show. Because this is survival through feeling.
Your scumbag brother-in-law is finished. Done. You understand? I will own him when this is over.
Jesse figures out the most important truth in Breaking Bad, that Walter poisoned a child he loved to manipulate him because he was still feeling things accurately enough to follow the inconsistency. A person who had deadened themselves the way Walter had wouldn't have kept tracing the thread. They would have filed it, moved on. The emotional connection to Brock is what kept Jesse searching. The poisoning wasn't just strategy to him, it was a wound. And that wound kept him paying attention long enough to see Walter clearly. The capacity to feel the cost of things, which looked like Jesse's liability for 4 seasons, became the thing that gave him the most accurate picture of Walter White of anyone in the show. And then El Camino. Jesse driving, not triumphant. Too much has happened for triumph, but alive, moving forward, still carrying everything, still feeling everything. Walter's story ends in the meth lab, on the floor, inside the thing he built, the transformation complete, the legend achieved, the person gone. Jesse's story ends on a road, heading somewhere, and the show's argument finally becomes visible. The character who never stopped feeling the cost of things is the one who still has somewhere left to go. The character who recalibrated every moral instrument until nothing registered anymore is the one who ends up alone inside the machine he built. Feeling everything didn't save Jesse from the damage. He's carrying all of it, but it kept him connected to the version of himself that existed before everything happened. Walter destroyed that connection in himself. Jesse never did. And in real life, the pressure to stop feeling the cost of things is constant, to become more operational, more strategic, more efficient.
If this is like math or algebra, and you add a plus douchebag to a minus douchebag, then you get like 0 douchebags.
The people applying that pressure usually frame the deadening as maturity, as pragmatism, as what adults do. Jesse's arc is the show's answer to that framing. It's costly to keep feeling, but it's also the only thing that keeps you real. He felt everything. That's why he made it. Section 4. What Jesse needed. Jesse Pinkman didn't need to be controlled. He needed to be seen. He was competent, loyal, creative, funny, and emotionally present in ways almost nobody else in Breaking Bad was.
You kill Mr. White, you're gonna have to kill me too.
But every system around him treated those qualities like liabilities instead of strengths. His family gave up on him. School dismissed him. Walt used him. The DEA leveraged him. What Jesse actually needed was a life where his warmth and loyalty mattered for their own sake, not just when they were useful. And throughout the show, you see small flashes of that possibility. With Brock at the support group, in moments where he's allowed to just be human. That's the tragedy. Not that Jesse was weak, that the world around him had no place for the parts that made him human. Section 5. The cost of being used. Walter White turns Jesse into a tool, and the cruel part is that Jesse knows it, at least deep down. But Walt keeps offering recognition, and Jesse keeps coming back because the praise feels like connection. Over time, Jesse starts confusing being needed with being valued. By season 5, he finally understands who Walt really is. He learns about Brock, about Jane. The full picture comes together.
I'm the guy your boss brought here to show you how it's done.
But even then, his feelings toward Walt aren't simple hatred, because manipulation and genuine moments of care have been tangled together for years. That's what makes the relationship tragic. Some of the warmth was real, but it was still being used. Section 6. The real point. Jesse's story is really about conditional recognition. When the only time people truly see you is when you're useful, you start believing your value has to be earned through performance. That's the trap. The answer isn't to stop needing recognition. It's to build relationships where your worth isn't tied entirely to usefulness. That's why El Camino matters. For the first time, Jesse is moving on without Walt, without the operation, without someone else deciding what he's worth. Conclusion: Breaking Bad tells you Jesse Pinkman is the weak one. It's wrong. His guilt and emotional sensitivity weren't flaws. They were proof that he never fully deadened himself. Walter ends the story trapped inside the empire he built. Jesse ends it moving forward. The character who felt everything was the only one who still had somewhere left to go.